Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Trash Talk Podcast. I'm your host, JJ, and with me today I have Sergey. Big surprise.
Hello.
Sergey, what are we talking about today?
I think we wanted to talk about books.
We did want to talk about books.
In general.
Books as an abstract concept.
I mean, that's it, isn't it?
In a way, yes. I mean, books, of course, is a very wide-ranging phenomenon. As a matter of fact, I have at least 3 categories of books that I can think of. Well, I guess 4 in a way. Like right around here. As a matter of fact, I have 3 different types of books that I can see. Comic books, D&D books, and regular fiction books. Novels, if you will.
Oh, yeah. Do we include instruction manuals?
Depends. How many pages?
I don't know, like one of those really, really long things that has like every language possible in it.
Yeah, my parents would always joke that whenever there was like a big instruction manual, like, oh, this is longer than Lord of the Rings.
Might possibly.
Oh my god. Like the freaking Microsoft license agreement. I saw a chart recently on Reddit where they were comparing all of the end-user license agreements of various services, and the Microsoft one was like by far the longest. But...
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it is for all products. So you don't have to have separate ones for every single product. So in theory, that might still be the best solution, even though it ends up being really long.
I don't know. I'm not here to argue about that.
I mean, that's not even the topic at all. I mean, I think we possibly made a new record at naming the topic and then instantly derailing it.
Okay. So, why books?
That's a good question.
Deeply philosophical question.
Why books? I guess I believe I wrote this down for this podcast. The topic as why we enjoy reading.
I don't know. The Google Doc clearly says why books ?
Well, if you look under the heading Trash Talk Podcast 187, topic 1, you will say that it says why we enjoy reading.
Okay. Sure.
Yes, I know, but the doc says both things.
Yep.
Behind the scenes information.
Okay.
You put it here first. It's something. I mean, I think I originally started reading purely for the enjoyment of fiction, and the books just happened to be the medium through which I was enjoying it. Which makes the question of why books in particular a hard one. Is it nostalgia? It's not just nostalgia, I would say, but it's probably a factor.
I don't think it's nostalgia, or at least for me it isn't. I think it has more to do with what kind of information or like what kind of stories are possible in books that aren't possible in any other way.
That is true. There is, I mean, every medium has its own limitations and conventions that kind of do affect the kind of stories that you can and do tell. Books have one of the advantages that I would generally also say about something like animation, where you're not really limited by what effects you can produce, because if you're making an animation or you're writing a book, it costs you the same amount to have, like, aliens and superheroes and things beyond human imagination. Well, not beyond imagination, maybe, but, you know, like, tentacle monsters or whatever, are just as hard as humans. As a matter of fact, they're probably easier because humans are hard to draw when it comes to animation. It's easier to write a believable tentacle monster than a believable human because humans are complicated. And we have a vague idea of how humans work. Uncanny Valley is a thing. You're not gonna get an Uncanny Valley tentacle monster. I don't know why I said tentacle
I
monster.
guess.
That...
Oh yeah, man, Japan.
I mean, you would know.
Okay. So yeah, yeah, I don't know. For me, I think it has to do with the amount of detail you can put in a book, where you explain like really intricate details about random objects. Yet you wouldn't really be able to do that in film, like in moving pictures. You'd be able to show the thing, maybe add a narration, but that just looks and sounds strange, I think.
I mean, that's definitely
Can
something.
But you can put much more emphasis on the objects and or like minor expressions on people, whatever, like anything
Yeah, I was about
than
to
you
say,
can do in
actually,
film.
what I thought of
Yeah.
is I definitely like reading good prose. Like, the descriptions, not even necessarily because I want the objects to be described in particular ways or the people, but because I just like descriptive language in a way. Uh,
Yep.
Maybe even a bit on the flowery side, like using ridiculous adverbs to describe the actions of people and the adjectives to describe people and objects. That there's definitely something there that is enjoyable that you just don't have unless you have voiceover narration, which most of the time is clunky.
Yep.
In movies or TV shows, that's definitely a thing. I also like having a book in my hand and reading it kind of as like a what's the word? I have utilized this word in
Tactile.
previous discussion talking. Yes, like a tactile. Was that the word I was looking for? It doesn't matter. It works. Haptic is the word I think I was trying to think of. But yeah, no.
Oh yeah.
Tactile I think is actually better. Point is, right? Just having a physical book in your hand, turning the pages as you're reading. There's something to be said about that.
Yep.
It's hard to
really a big thing. I don't know. I can't put like I don't know why it is, but it somehow is anyway. Like
I know, right? Stupid
can't really
monkey
explain
brain.
that.
Um.
True.
Yeah. No. I like books. I like stories in general. I mean, I said already, fiction specifically, of course. And I feel like certain things of how the stories are told in books, narratively versus if you're watching a TV show, it's very episodic. Usually, most plot points or a lot of plot points, depending on what the kind of show it is, will have to be wrapped up within an episode or two. There are overarching elements usually, but it's not often the primary focus. If you're watching a movie, it all has to fit within that like 90 minutes to 2 hours sort of time frame. And I feel like in a book, you can oftentimes more easily go into like what a side character is doing or have more grand stories without necessarily needing to worry about the format as much. It feels less constrained in that way, maybe, as well.
Yeah, basically because you can vary the page size, like page amount, like font size, all that kind of stuff. You can just
Yeah, I mean,
also, as a reader, read at your own pace, basically, or just skip parts that you don't find it interesting, I
so
guess.
I don't normally skip in books. I find that kind of
Me,
weird.
me neither. I find it weird too.
But I do agree that you can pay more or less attention to certain segments as you care about them. You can kind of, if there's a scene that you're not very interested in and, it's like very cliched and you know how it's playing out, you can like read it very quickly, kind of just reading
Skim
every
it.
word, but mostly just getting the gist of it. While if there is something very interesting happening, you can read it very carefully and think more in detail about what's happening. And the being able to go to it at your own pace is actually an interesting point that I hadn't thought about. That really doesn't exist in any other medium that I can think of. I mean, I guess you could pause, but that's not the same thing.
I mean, there is apparently a guy on YouTube that recently kind of sort of blew up with watching random movies at 0.25 speed.
Okay, I mean, yeah.
So that's a thing, but not really.
You have speed settings these days, oftentimes. I mean, even back in the day with DVDs, I don't know about VHS, but you could... I mean, I would assume VHS as well. You can adjust the speed, you can pause, but...
Oh, yeah.
It's not as smooth.
It's not the same thing.
Right? Like there's, like, big action scene, you're like, oh, God, yawn, I know what's gonna happen there. Like, double speed, and then go back to regular once dialogue is happening or something, you know, that it feels a lot clunkier than just adjusting your reading pace according to what seems appropriate for you, given the scene.
Oh yeah, by the way, do we include like comic books into like overall books?
I mean, I did just do that when I said like 3 different types of books, so in that way, I guess it is very different, because regular books, your novels, you're thinking words on a page. Comic books, you're thinking pictures with words on a page. I mean, the pictures are really the main difference. A lot of what is to be said about books that we have said does not apply to comics, like the narration. I mean, there often is narration, but because a lot of the actual detail is in the images, there's not nearly as much narration usually.
Yep.
On the other hand, stuff like reading pace does apply to both equally as well.
True.
And then,
one other point I kind of want to mention is like if we include like blog articles on the internet, like forums, all that kind of fancy stuff, into books, I think the information density is also like a big argument for books.
I mean, yes, okay. Articles, I could possibly see how they're like kind of like maybe a textbook or something. Like, that sort of a comparison. I don't know if we necessarily... I think at some point when we're equating forum threads to books, that's a bit of a stretch. I mean, in as I originally pitched it regarding reading, yes. Books, no.
I guess.
Though, of course, you mentioned comics. I think they have a lot of the same advantages that I said about animation, where it's relatively easy to draw one thing versus another, rather than like getting the CGI in a real life situation, in the live action scenario, where comic book is not really a limiting medium either. They do usually have very strict page counts, 22 usually in a single issue. But otherwise, I mean, that's just
interesting fact.
Most Western comic books seem to be 22 pages an issue for the single issues. There is giant size issues, and then there's of course collected volumes and all that stuff. But 22 pages plus about as many ads. I mean, probably not quite, but yeah, no. Comic books. I like comics. I don't know if you could tell. It's a very different
could tell very well.
I would say it's a different experience from reading a novel.
Yeah.
Also, dude,
I mean, you kind of have the imaginative work done for you with comic books.
Yes. I must say, I'm not good at visualizing things, especially without reference, right? So, the idea, when I'm reading a book, I'm mostly not visualizing things. I'm just kind of in the abstract, kind of keeping all of what I have been told in mind, sort of a thing.
Yeah.
And especially the characters, I oftentimes don't imagine specifically what they look like, to the point where I can literally forget how they have been described previously, unless I've seen an adaptation that has a visual component, and I know what the characters look like from actually having seen them. In which case, I usually end up imagining the movie/TV versions, even if their appearance contradicts the description in the books. Which is always a bit weird. Because it's just the first association you have in your head.
Yeah. Not gonna lie, happens to me too. Yeah. I don't know. Do you have anything else? Because I think I had something.
Not really.
But I forgot.
It's one of those questions that I thought was a very interesting question, and I had no idea what my answer was, which is also as a podcast topic, but I figured there was a discussion to be had. Just looking over at my stack of books. Yeah, no, it's they're nice. I tend to like books oftentimes better than their movie adaptations. Not sure about TV show adaptations, but movie adaptations for sure. Which, I mean, is the more common way to adapt books. And I think it's usually because of a lot of the detail that is left out in the movies. Which I guess is one of the things that we mentioned, the expansiveness of the narrative in the books.
Also, like, from my experience at least, oftentimes, like, side story arcs, I guess, are left out in adaptations.
Yeah.
So it's not just a more detailed storyline that was in the movies or TV show, whatever, but also like additional side stories that happen alongside the main story.
Yeah.
That you just don't get to see.
I've had that before when I was watching a movie based on a book that I've had previously read, and I was like, they completely left out that one storyline that felt kind of important. And it's like, the worst part is, whenever they adapt a book that has sequels without thinking about the fact that the movie might also have sequels, they leave out a side plot that is not really as relevant within the book itself, but becomes relevant later on, and then it seems like something just happens out of nowhere, because they kind of forgot to include a story thread that actually was kind of important.
Just add flashbacks.
I mean, it's not unheard of for them to either add flashbacks or just change the order in which things happen to make it work. But I definitely have seen movies where something seems to come out of nowhere, and once you read the books, it actually makes a lot more sense, because they actually explain how that happened. Yeah. So that's definitely something that happens.
That is a thing.
I guess also the idea of generally wanting to consume the source material if there's multiple versions, right? Sometimes the adaptations are better, but that's kind of rare. Especially book adaptations.
I mean, I've seen a few cases, but yeah, it's not a lot. I think I know of 2 cases where that is.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Care to elaborate?
Nah.
Okay, fair enough.
Don't really want to out myself as a weeb here.
I believe everyone knows, Sergey.
So yeah.
I mean, weeb stuff is mostly just manga and light novels being adapted into animes, right?
Yeah.
Which is definitely still adaptation, but I think it's kind of different from adapting a novel into a movie. Because you're usually adapting a series of stories into a series of stories.
Kind of.
Very broadly speaking.
That is true, yeah.
You said you felt like you had another thing you wanted to say. Have you come up with that, or?
No, I don't remember it. Like, I know for a fact I'm going to remember it after the podcast. and be really sad that I couldn't say anything about that.
Sergey, leave your
obvious.
remaining thoughts in the comments
Yeah.
below. Which, by the way, is also an invitation to all of our viewers, of course, to leave a comment on this video if you have anything to add to why you do or don't like books. I mean, we just happen to be two guys who like books. If we had our other relatively common co-host of this show who can't read on here, he might say something different. Yes, I'm going to keep insisting that he just straight up can't read, and that's why he doesn't.
Pretty accurate, though.
You know, I think the joke mostly comes from the fact that he once said that he has a very slow reading speed, and I think he said that like he couldn't read fast. And I was like, oh yeah, right. I remember you can't read, and just full stop.
So yeah.
Well, if you have nothing to add, I guess that brings us to your fact
anything
of this week.
Oh my god. Do you by any chance know Mike the Chicken?
I do not know Mike the Chicken.
Okay. That is a shame. Because the way you usually call him is Mike the Headless Chicken. Because he's famous for living without a head for 18 months.
I mean, I knew they could do it for a while. I didn't know they could do it for that long.
So yeah, Mike the Headless Chicken lived without a head for 18 months. That is my fact of the week.
What did he die of?
1 second. Oh, he got like a kernel of corn in his throat and just choked on that.
Okay.
I mean, his throat is basically always open because he has no head. It's easy to get stuff in there that shouldn't be there.
Because I know that I believe cockroaches also don't need their heads to live, except that they will die because they can't eat.
Yeah.
So they'll just eventually die of malnourishment. They'll just starve to death. It's like,
yeah.
Shit, no head. Can't eat. Starve to death.
But yeah, the chicken was actually like able to like walk around. Don't think it was able to fly, but like doing all the normal chicken stuff.
I mean, to be fair, he didn't have his compass, so I don't know. Do chickens have that? You know how certain birds, at least the ones that migrate to the south in winter, have like some I think some like metallic ions or something in their head that they can sense the magnetic field with. And I dropped my pen.
Oh, I didn't know.
So that they can figure out where they're going.
I don't know.
It's something I've heard. I don't know if it's actually true, but that's my fact of the week that is true though is something that I've now seen twice this week, and so it's a very interesting fact. And that is that German scientists have figured out how to make a rat with a severed spinal column walk again. They injected it with, I believe the article that I read said, a protein that allowed it to regenerate the nerve cells in its spine, and after 2 to 3 weeks, regained the ability to walk. Now, not in of itself interesting, but obviously the idea is that
that is crazy.
Inevitably, in a couple of years, and they said it'll be many years, but they hope to implement it in humans, which is where the really exciting thing happens, of course.
Man, that is mind-blowing.
Yes. And again, because
technology is advancing at a really, really fast pace.
Yeah, and because they're just injecting something that helps them regrow their nerve cells basically by themselves, means that it's actually not a very invasive procedure even. I mean, they did inject it into the brain, I think it said, so, but considering how much nerves you have to regrow there, it's relatively uninvasive for what it does.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool, so I figured, in case it hadn't been on
That's
y'all's
pretty cool.
news, I would share that.
Why is the light flickering on my camera?
I was just thinking that, like, your background light is flickering, which I believe is just the sun. So that's kind of scary.
Yeah.
I mean, I assume it's
Like,
clouds
it
or
does
something.
not look like it in real life.
Okay.
I don't know what's happening.
The sun is flickering, we're all about to die. You've heard it here first. 8 minutes. 8 minutes!
Okay,
because the distance between the sun
Yeah,
and the Earth is 8 light minutes. We were feeling very inspired today, and we decided for the halftime show we were going to do the same thing that we did the previous weeks.
Oh yeah, decided by random chance, by the way.
Yes, that's the thing, right? We had 4 options. We chose this one, and we're starting right off with
the dice. The dice chose this one.
Yes,
very important distinction.
Because you know what, I'm going to go very briefly go back to full screen here. Of course, I have my little dice tray with plenty of dice right on hand. Yeah, I mean, I'm literally just showing off at this point. We were doing this.
Let me full screen.
Would you rather have the ability to teleport or be able to time travel? You would not be able to affect the time-space continuum. And then I'm just going to agree. I mean, I guess they're saying you can't change history. Because, of course, both teleportation and time travel would literally affect the space-time continuum by necessity. But,
yeah.
I think I'm going to agree with the top comment here. My laziness overcomes my nostalgia.
It's a tough one. Because couldn't you kind of sort of teleport with being able to time travel?
Oh, you just go as far into the past as it takes you to get there, and then you just show up on time?
Yeah.
Or do you mean you literally travel relative to the rotation of the globe and you just actually show up places?
Oh, no. That is...
I mean, that
is kind of dubious.
Because there is no objective. Because there's no objective point relative to which you are. Because you might as well then land in space because the planet moved.
Yeah.
Or the galaxy. Or,
Galaxy cluster.
Yes. The entire universe is expanding.
That too.
I think...
So yeah, I'd probably choose time travel, actually.
So I would say that time travel without being able to change anything is interesting, and you get to see the past and the future, and...
Oh man, just time travel to the future and get yourself a teleporter. Easy hack.
We're assuming that humanity's not doomed.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think time travel specifically to the future seems like a risky proposition. And teleportation seems very convenient, especially if it's like jumper level teleportation where I can just show up anywhere on the planet at will. That would be something.
Yeah. Can you take along stuff, though?
You think I'm gonna show up naked?
It is a possibility, man. That's all I'm saying.
Mean, I could ask you the same thing about time travel. Have you ever seen Terminator? They show up naked.
Yeah? Sure.
Would you rather have your best friend be a girl or be a guy?
I don't care.
I was about to say, like, I don't. I judge people by
I
the.
don't see the question here.
What is it? I don't judge people by their genitals, but by the strength of their character. Is that what it was?
Shit. Cards. Shuffling cards again.
So
if you couldn't tell.
I would literally say it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna also say that it has been said that it is a good basis for a relationship to be best friends with your partner, and by that logic, and the fact that I'm not interested in guys, I guess I'm gonna pick gal, because
I guess that makes sense to me.
Because that's literally the only difference I can think of that makes logical sense to me.
Yeah, does make sense.
Would you rather be awake during spine surgery and hear the bones crunching, or be awake when they twisted a extremely broken arm back into place? I mean, if we're assuming that there's local anesthesia, it doesn't make a practically a huge difference, does it? Okay, if we're assuming that you don't have sensation in the affected parts, I guess arm because it's faster.
I mean, I guess we don't use the like the hack that the first comment mentioned.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. They technically don't say it about either. That it has to be you, but even I think practically, right? If you have local anesthesia and you don't feel anything, the only difference is where you spend more time, effectively, to me, because both of them seem like an uncomfortable situation to be in. Even if not literally painful. If we're actually fully feeling everything, I guess you'd still have to pick arm because, I don't know, spine seems like a really bad place to be feeling incredible pain.
I don't know if you would even like. I don't know. I'd probably pick spine though.
Okay.
Like assuming that the surgery is successful.
Yes. Yeah, so the majority says arm. I think I would tend to agree. Would you rather be a wizard or be the king of England? And here's a caveat. Well, actually, the one reason that might justify it, you would have ruling power as king. Because, of course, the modern day, Queen of England is really more of a figurehead than anything else.
This seems like an easy answer, man. I don't know.
I mean, I would much rather be a literal wizard. Are you kidding me? That reminds me of a short comic that I saw where someone pulls Excalibur out of the stone, and then someone says, "Oh, you're now the rightful king of England." Pulls out his phone, types in England, looks at his phone, throws away the sword. If you could be in a Broadway show, would you rather star in Wicked or star in Lion King? You would have a lead in either.
What is Wicked?
It's about the Wicked Witch of the West, I believe. Is it the West? I think it's the West. From The Wizard of Oz.
Wicked, I think.
I would think so as well, though quite frankly, I don't care that strongly.
Yeah. Interesting.
Did we do this already? This feels familiar. Would you rather be friends with John Wilkes Booth or be friends with Lee Harvey Oswald? You would be close friends with them. I don't know those
guys.
And everyone knows. For example, they come to your house frequently for dinner. Okay, so John Wilkes Booth is the guy who killed Lincoln. Lee Harvey Oswald is the guy who killed JFK.
Oh, I think we had that one.
I think it sounds familiar, right? I mean,
It sounds familiar. But I don't know, man.
I don't know that much about either of them as human beings. I would pick Oswald purely because it's closer to the present day.
Sure. Let's pick that.
Because of like societal and technological tendencies, I would much rather live in the 60s than, I don't even know how far back was like the Civil War era, but also there was a Civil War going on at the time. Well, actually, it was probably over at the time that the assassination happened, but... Would you rather be a famous rapper or a notorious mobster?
Yes, rapper.
Yeah, I mean, both of those make money, and one of those is illegal. And once you're famous, the chance of having contact with the law just significantly increases. Let's do one more. I always say that.
Yeah.
Oh, this is an interesting one. Would you rather live in the past or live in the future? And the name of this one is 88 miles per hour. Which, of course, is a Back to the Future reference. Oh, you would have no knowledge
I only now noticed that these have names.
Yes, you would have no knowledge of anything other than the time you lived in. Whatever that means.
So, like, present day?
I'm not sure if this is just weirdly worded or if they're actually trying to say that.
I don't know. Future. Easy pick.
Yes, I mean, I would tend to agree.
Like, just technological advancements.
Yep, and it's the majority opinion as
outweigh
well.
Pretty much everything.
And we're back in full stream.
Yeah.
That brings us, I believe, to the second topic, which I think has some contextual relevance to the first topic. We were going to talk about... actually, we're going to talk about YouTube. And our viewing habits, if you will. Which mostly came up because I tend to also watch longer videos. Hey, viewer of this video, let us know if you watch longer or shorter videos in the comments below. See, it's funny because this video is an hour long. Which, if you consider this short, more power to you, but, that's not... I don't think that's what we're talking about when we're talking about short. Now, what is interesting...
there do be people that watch 9-hour streams.
Yes. The thing that is definitely interesting is the question of, do we consider 20 minutes to be short or long?
It's like a weird in-between.
Because it's... If you're the person who watches like anything from 5 to 20 minutes, generally speaking, it's on the long side. If you generally... more like me, that's probably on the shorter side already.
I don't know, man. So yeah, let's first define like short and long.
Okay, 5 minutes is definitely short, 1 hour is definitely long.
Okay, I can agree with that. 10 minutes is
10 minutes is probably still definitely short. Yeah, I would say. And I think everything... okay, let's say everything below 10 minutes is definitely short, and everything over 40 minutes is definitely long.
Okay, yeah.
In between is difficult.
Yeah. To be honest, I consider 30-minute videos, or like close to 30-minute videos, also like on the longer side.
Yeah.
I don't know how you'd classify that.
I generally try to keep stuff like our Hearthstone videos around 20 minutes, 10 to 20. So that's ones that I would generally, like the sort of brief gameplay videos, I would generally consider to fall more into the short category. So I guess.
Yeah.
And the reason why I don't try to go for like half an hour is because like that sounds like a lot of time, right? Half an hour. So that's definitely a thing. But yeah, I tend to prefer longer videos, even with the definition that we've now given. And I think having a certain zone there for like between 20 and 40 or something, or 15 and 40 or whatever, that is a bit ambiguous whether it's long or short, I think is fine for sake of the discussion.
Yeah.
Let's say 15 to 40 is medium.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
That's an odd span when you think about it, because the difference between 15 and 40 is 25, which is more than 15. Like, the upper bound is more than twice of what the lower bound is, almost 3 times.
I guess. I mean, there are videos that are longer than 1 hour, but there aren't really videos that are shorter than 0 seconds.
You got me there.
But
of course, there's big spans on either way, but it feels weird to have the medium span still be relatively big, but I don't think we're going to really get a consensus answer otherwise. I mean, consensus between 2 people, but...
Like, usually, I myself watch shorter or, like, kind of sort of medium range videos, but also more on the shorter side of medium. 20 minutes is a bit rough, man. I don't really have that long of an attention span.
Okay, attention span is actually one of the notes that I've written down for myself of reasons why one might have one or the other. And I have 3 things to say about that. 1, you don't necessarily have to watch it in one piece. 2, I watch virtually every single YouTube video at 1.5 times speed. By the way, there's a little settings wheel right down there where you can adjust the speed. It probably makes this podcast more enjoyable, quite frankly. And 3, I oftentimes tend to do something else on another screen, right? I have 2 screens. I oftentimes have a video on my TV screen up front there. Okay. This direction. I should have figured out that
right behind the camera.
Point to the camera. It's virtually behind the camera. I mean, you can tell that I'm not straight pointing at the camera. And then, right to my side here, I have very close to me my primary screen, which I would then usually like play a game on that doesn't require a lot of concentration or something, right? So that I can still pay attention to the video. And if there is something visually engaging happening, I can look over. But otherwise, oftentimes it's also mostly audio. Like this podcast, that for some reason has a very, like, a semi-visual halftime show. I mean, I feel like the Would You Rathers would work without images. This is actually relatively audio listener friendly.
I don't know. So you're basically doing it the Alex way.
Yes.
I can't do that. Like, I have to pay attention to one thing and one thing only.
Huh.
If I'm gonna play a game, even that one that does not really require much concentration, like after like 5 to 10 minutes, I'm just gonna tune out everything else. I don't know why.
To be fair, I do consider, despite how I label the screens, I do consider the game usually to be the secondary activity. Which
no, it's like an active thing you do.
Well, yeah. It doesn't mean I have to pay a lot of attention to it. Like, I definitely have known that, like, I can even sometimes play Hearthstone without really thinking too much about it. If there is a complicated situation in the game, especially like Hearthstone or something where that can come up, where you're in a tight spot, you have to actually think, I pause the video. I do my thing, and then I unpause the video.
And, like, how much do you remember from the video after, like, watching it that way?
Most of it. I mean, I don't think I
Well,
retain much less than I would if I was just watching the video.
that's like a huge difference to how it is for me. Because if I play a game, like, I don't know, I don't have an example here. Just imagine like a really easy game. I don't know.
Yeah, I was about to say you can't exactly play Beat Saber while watching YouTube video,
Nah,
probably.
it would be an easy game, but it also involves sounds and not really
It
a
involves
good
sound,
bit.
and you have something over your head.
Eh,
I just imagine Sergey just not even wearing the headset. He knows the song so well, he just plays them from memory without even looking at it.
you can't do that. There are people
I
who
mean,
do that.
I figure that you can, but you know.
Well, yeah, anyway, so if I do anything else besides watching that video, I'm gonna remember like 10 to maybe 20% of the actual content in the video, like tops. I forget most of it because I automatically focus on the thing that I do actively.
Yeah,
I don't know,
I,
like
I may or may not have just kicked the camera stand ever so slightly, but continue.
I don't know. I feel like I'm repeating myself now.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, I feel like I can switch my focus, or well, split my focus relatively easily if it is a game that I have certain amount of routine playing. Right? If I don't really have to strategize that much about what I'm doing, if I already so an example that maybe there isn't that many games that we both play, so I'm trying to come up with something. But for example, one thing that I've noticed is if I play Minecraft while having videos on in the background, the only thing I'll usually do is go mining. Because
Oh
I
yeah,
don't have to think while doing that. Like I'll go mining, I might farm mobs if I have a spawner somewhere, right? That sort of stuff. But I won't necessarily advance my tech all that much. Right? I'll process my ores possibly, right? Like all of the like routine stuff I'll do. But the actual stuff that involves thinking and planning, I will usually not do while listening to videos. In that case, I would just have music on in the background. And with the music, it's the thing where I might focus too much on the game that I tune it out, but it doesn't matter, right? Because I'm not missing anything if I'm not actively listening to the music.
especially because you probably heard the music already.
I mean, yeah, that too. Usually,
Yeah.
I have
So
in the
yeah,
past
that
also
is
put
actually a
on
good
mixes.
example of like a simple game you can do, like
Well,
simple side activity.
yeah, but
Specifically the mining part.
yeah, I was gonna say once you're getting into like building up your tech tree. Of course, we're playing heavily modded with stuff like Ender.io, thermal expansion, and the likes.
Oh yeah. So yeah, like even then, like when I go mining, if I put on like I don't know, like even something that does not really require visuals, just like a podcast,
Mm-hmm.
I still will miss like most of it. Like by far most of it. I don't know why. I just focus on the thing I'm like actually actively doing. I can't keep two things in my mind at the same time.
The only thing that for me would be that I can't necessarily pay as much attention to the visuals if there are visuals, because of the obvious fact that I'm looking at a different screen primarily. Because even mindless mining, you should probably be looking at what you're doing, especially because lava is a thing. And what was I gonna say? Right. So yeah, I'm looking where I'm going and all that stuff. So I'm not as much looking at the screen, though. I do then sometimes if I know that there's something visual happening on the screen, I'll be looking at my game, like playing my game. Oh, there's something going on. Okay, I saw what's going on. Keep playing the game, right? I
I don't know.
usually
I
have a
can't do
tendency
that.
to. That's also one of the things about the game. It has to be pausable, either literally, or there has to be a period where I don't have to make inputs. right? Because if I have to
Yeah.
consistently make inputs, and otherwise the game like stops or I lose or whatever, then if something is happening in the video that requires me to pay more attention, I might then fuck up the game. Which is also why,
Yeah.
again, if I have a high-stakes situation in the game, I pause the video to focus on the game.
Makes sense.
That also, by the way, explains why whenever the one time I sent you like a 1 hour video, and like a week later I was like, oh, have you seen this? And by now you're like, no, I haven't had the time. Like,
Yeah, you can't expect me to watch like a 1 hour video instead of like 5 20-minute videos.
yes, which is almost twice as long.
Yeah. I guess that attention, me not being able to keep attention, keep two things, can't speak, keep two things in focus simultaneously is why I can't really listen to audiobooks. Because I just get distracted by other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I prefer reading over audiobooks. Kind of relating back to the first topic a little bit, so in that way, I don't really listen to audiobooks. If anything, I would listen to something that doesn't exist in a printed form, like a podcast. So, I mean, yes, transcripts exist, but if it was intended as an audible experience, not the company, the sense, then I would also then listen to it. But yeah, that's definitely a thing. I've noticed myself. If I don't have anything else to do, I'll probably be sitting at my computer with like a YouTube queue with like probably dozens of like hour-long videos in there, and some video game playing on the other screen, and that's just how I will spend my time. Which is why I actually get through copious amounts of YouTube videos in a day.
Oh yeah. For me, it's just like the same, but shorter videos and no game by the side. So I'm just actively watching YouTube videos.
I mean, that might also in part inform the kind of games that I actually play a lot. Which is like, like match 3 games and, well, Hearthstone to some degree, and, like the boring parts of Minecraft. Just...
I don't know.
Yeah.
There are no boring parts in Minecraft.
I mean, in a
Except
way,
like
I feel like...
the early game.
I feel like literally just taking your pickaxe and going downstairs mining seems like a very boring thing in theory. But I definitely sometimes just straight up do it for like an hour or two, even if I'm not listening to anything else on the side.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely a big thing. I mean, I know we wanted to talk originally about long versus short videos, but I think we kind of got one of the big underlying factors.
Also, like one thing I want to mention too is that recently, like after we've had the initial discussion about that topic, like off camera, a few weeks ago, I've noticed myself also sometimes just start watching longer videos, intending to just take a break or like skip ahead to the interesting part. But get like really absorbed in the video and watch the whole thing through in one sitting while not doing anything else, like actively watching.
Yeah, that's the same effect as
thinking
binging
about
a TV
the video.
show. Like you watch a TV show,
Basically,
you're like, okay,
yeah.
just one episode.
One more episode.
Fuck, it ends on a cliffhanger. One more. And then just watch it.
Basically that, yeah. Yep. That is actually exactly that.
Yeah. So let's see. I actually have some notes I wrote down. Oh yeah. So I wrote down attention span, which I think we talked about quite a bit.
Yeah.
I wrote down depth, because you can go more in depth the longer the video is if you're talking about a topic. Now, sometimes that can be to the detriment of the discussion where, we spin in circles and we just make the same point 3 times over. But on other times, that can also be used to actually expound further upon the topic. And then I have written down variety/consistency. If you're watching a bunch of short videos back to back, you have a lot of variety you can easily have a lot of variety in your content, right? You have this type of video, then that type of video from this creator to that creator, and so you don't get bored as easily, in theory, while you also lack consistency oftentimes. It's not to say that you can't watch 5 back-to-back short videos all about the same topic, but you're probably going to get more out of one long one at that point. Going back to the depth.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then I said long for, I mean, podcasts in general, but also possibly more informative content, because if I want to know about something and I'm watching a video on it, I probably want to know an in-depth explanation. Otherwise, I'd just read the first paragraph of the Wikipedia article if I just wanted to get the general gist. And short for stuff like comedy, for example. I wouldn't probably not want to watch a 1-hour comedy show, but I'll easily watch a 5-minute highlight. I mean, it's not unheard of for me to watch a 1-hour comedy show, but very rarely.
I don't know.
I feel comedy is something best enjoyed in short doses, as exemplified by the fact that comedy shows generally tend to have 20-minute episodes, whereas other shows often have 40-minute episodes in TV.
Fun fact, I guess.
I mean, I feel like it's a generally well-known fact, but
I don't know, stuff like that.
I mean, animation is often also 20-minute episodes. I don't know if it's because it's harder to produce, or if it's just because they're also written in a way that it lends itself more towards shorter episodes.
I don't know. But yeah, that is a thing.
Anything else you have?
Do you have anything else? No, I don't.
I think we kind of hit the points. I think the attention thing and the multitasking was definitely the most interesting aspect of this, and of course the video speed is an important thing for me, because I've noticed that YouTube videos are very easily watched at a higher speed, which doesn't necessarily translate as much to TV shows, because they're usually very well paced, where YouTube videos oftentimes are not necessarily made with the same tight pacing in mind. So I've tried watching certain TV shows in 1.5 times speed, and it usually feels off. But in a YouTube video, I don't even notice it. As a matter of fact, it feels very sluggish when I don't watch it at 1.5 times. And that also means that I can watch like a 1-hour video in 40 minutes, which definitely is also a factor, I would say.
Yeah. Also wanted to mention that I usually don't watch videos at any other speed other than the original. Basically ever.
I do definitely concede that it's a bit of a habit thing as well. Like, I used to not do it, then I used to sometimes do it. I noticed there was some channels at a while where I would watch them at normal speed and others at 1.5, until I got more used to the channels that I was watching at normal speed. I would then also increase the speed. And at this point, I just watch everything at 1.5. It usually doesn't feel that bad. I mean, I'm not sure if you noticed, but I talk fast as well, so I'm oftentimes a bit... I do have odd pauses, but when I do talk, I talk fast oftentimes, and I feel like I can also listen to people talk fast very easily. And
that is not a problem for me. For me, it's
like
mostly because I think it has more to do with the kind of content I consume.
Actually,
I don't know.
That's also a factor in long versus short videos, I think. What kind of content do you consume, Sergey?
Yeah. Like, it's, at least right now, it's like 3 different kinds. Like, one being just general comedy, or like funny outtakes of other YouTubers I watch.
Okay, comedy basically relies a bit on comedic timing, so I can see why.
Yeah.
That might not work
then
as well,
like the second one is like basically people explaining science, and they're also like kind of do want to take the time to think about it while they're talking. So I'm not really gonna put them on 1.5 times speed,
Okay, for
like
me
even
that
1.25 even.
for me that stuff always depends on the complexity, like how fast I can pick it up. If I can pick it up at 1.5, I'll usually keep it at 1.5. If I want to think about something, I pause.
I don't know, man.
Because that's one
But
of
yeah,
those things where I don't split my attention as easily. If I'm thinking about something that was said, then I will not be paying attention to what is currently being said. So then I know what to pause, because otherwise I'll have to rewind anyways.
I guess. But even still, like at standard speed, you'll have a lot more time to process the information, like what is being said as it
Yeah,
is being said.
it depends on how much I know about the topic. One thing that I can think of, it's not science per se, but I think it's comparable, is I recently started, well, at this point not that recently, started watching a YouTuber uh, by the name, the YouTube channel is called Lawful Masses with Leonard French, and he's a lawyer, and he talks about lawsuits, which of course has a lot of legal jargon in it. So at first,
Oh yeah,
his videos, for example, I could not watch at increased speeds, because I had to wrap my head around like every single word he was saying. Well, not every, but like whenever like a legal term comes up, and he doesn't necessarily explain every single detail every time, because that's gonna get really boring really fast if you watch all of the videos. So oftentimes there'll be stuff that you just kind of have to roll with, and I had a hard time with that for a while, so I would watch those at regular speed, for example. But then, now that I've watched him for a couple of months, I just watch him at 1.5, because like all the legal jargon that does come up often, I'm just so used to at this point.
yeah, makes sense.
I think it's a situation that kind of illustrates upon what you were saying. What's the third category?
Yeah, the third category is just Beat Saber videos,
Okay,
Beat Saber gameplay.
You can speed up music. That's, I mean, you can
Yeah.
speed up music generally, but A, that's not the way it was intended to be listened to, and second of all, B, I just said A in second, huh? B, of course, for you as a Beat Saber player, seeing someone else play a level that you might also want to play, it would make sense if they played at the same pace that you would.
Yeah, I can't
So I was-
really read like the faster levels at like 1.5 speed.
As a matter of fact, there might even be an argument to be made if you really want to analyze what they're doing to slow it down.
Yeah, it's mostly just being amazed at like how well people play
Yeah.
the game I also play.
If it's something that involves like reaction speed and you gauging someone's reaction speed, you probably should watch it at the original speed.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that also is like a reason why I watch videos at like the original speed.
I've literally at one point was looking up a tutorial for something, and I put it at 1.5, and I was like, God, he's speaking slow. I put it at double speed, and I was like, God, this is the maximum YouTube allows. This guy is still talking slowly.
Oh yeah. Yes, there are exceptions to that. Like, for example, like really, really slow people making a tutorial.
There's two
But
types of people
that
making
happens
tech
rarely.
tutorials on YouTube. People that talk incredibly slowly and take forever to get to the point, and Indians.
And Indians.
Those two
Yes.
groups are not necessarily mutually exclusive.
Yep.
That's just what it
Facts.
is. Any closing thoughts on long versus short YouTube videos as a
I
viewer?
feel like I've said everything I wanted to say.
So, in that case, let us move to the final segment of every single episode of the Trash Talk podcast. Everyone's favorite segment, because we get to end it on a high note and a bad music pun. Sergey, what is the song of the week?
Oh yeah, gonna go a Russian song again this week, at least. I don't know if I can stick with it with the theme for much longer. Gonna be honest here, But this week's song of the week for me is "Коробейники,"
Ой, полна коробушка есть, и ситцы, и парча. Пожалей, моя застопушка, молодецкого плеча. Пожалей, моя застопушка, молодецкого плеча. Выйди, выйди, брошенный сокую там, на ночки погожу.
which is a Russian folk song. Also, fun fact about that, the Tetris theme was based on that song.
Well.
So- You might recognize the melody.
That's quite something. Yeah, for those that didn't know, Tetris is a Russian game, by the way. Let's see what I wrote down. Like, literally shortly before we started, so I'm not sure why I have to look this up already. Ah, yes, right. I went with the true classic, Let Your Love Flow by the Bellamy Brothers.
Just let your love flow like a mountain stream, and let your love grow with the smallest of dreams, and let your love show, and you'll know what I mean. It's the season. Let your love fly.
I mean, there's not much else to be said about it. It's literally a classic, and I do quite enjoy it. So, let us know what you thought about our songs of the week. Leave your own songs of the week in the comments section below. You know how this works. Like, comment, subscribe, join the Discord server, blah, 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 blah. Sergey.
That's it.
That's it.